Hello! In this video, I'm going to talk about the basic lesson plan template. I've provided this for you so that you have an example of what you should be putting together for one of the course assignments. You'll notice over here, there are three very basic things for you to fill in: the lesson plan title, a description of the topic that you're planning on presenting on, and the group members. Those should be easy enough for you to fill in and be able to do right away. Section number 1 is where you should describe the students that are in the class that you're going to be teaching your lesson to, their readiness to learn, and prior learning on the topic, as well as any methods of assessing these before you go about teaching. So for this, you should talk about the number of students and any background information that you have. Readiness and prior knowledge, you can do a pre-test, you can circulate a survey, you could do a Kahoot at the beginning of the lesson that you're going to teach. There's all kinds of ways that you can try and figure out what sorts of previous knowledge the students that you're going to be teaching to have, and this is an opportunity for you to think about that. In section 2, you should be thinking about the learning objectives and how you're going to check for understanding while and after you're teaching. So what I'm asking you to do here is I'm asking you to think about, before you begin any work, what do you want students to know and be able to do by the end of your lesson? Now, you should research your topic, you should know your topic, and then you should be thinking about how you're going to divide up that topic into objectives. These objectives should be specific, measurable, attainable, and timely, or SMART, and they should use an action verb. So they should be phrased such as, at the end of this lesson, students will be able to, for example, list the components involved in direct teaching. Or another example could be describe inquiry-based learning. Or you could think about an example of an objective as, at the end of this lesson, students will be able to compare and contrast the different uses of inquiry-based learning versus direct teaching. In this next section, you'll go through checking for understanding, and this is an opportunity for you to think about how you will know that your students have met these lesson objectives. Now, this can be formal or informal. I'm not suggesting that you need to create a test for the participants in your lesson to take. This could be that you're observing for body language that indicates that they understand, or you may do a Kahoot, or you may have them do a thumbs up to indicate that they understand. So this can be self-report as well as you doing some sort of an objective measure of checking for their understanding. It's completely up to you how you do this, but you want to make sure that it goes back to the objectives that you've developed and makes sense. In section 3, after you have your objectives developed, then you'll go through and you'll think about how you're going to teach that content. So in this section, after you know your content and after you've thought about the objectives, written them out, then you will come up with activities. You'll write step-by-step directions for implementing the lesson, including how you're going to set up the room, resources that you'll need, learning materials that you may need to develop, and so on. You should be including a time estimate for each of these as well. So you'll clearly explain what the teacher or the member of the group assigned to this part of the lesson will be doing and what you're anticipating the students in the class should be doing. No, I am not asking you to script everything out in terms of specifically what you intend to say and what you anticipate the student saying back. That's a level of detail that I'm not looking for. I want you to describe the activities and be able to go through your lesson in terms of the opening or what you're going to do to begin the lesson, the developmental or the main activity. And what I'm specifying here is that you should not be doing entirely direct instruction or even the majority of it as direct instruction. You've been given time to think up creative activities that can help students understand and learn the content that you're going to be teaching. So for here, you're going to be thinking up student-centered techniques to get them to learn the objectives that you've put forward. Now you may have guided practice for students to practice the new skills or the new ways of thinking, and there may be independent practice opportunities. These two steps right here, the guided practice and independent practice, that often comes when you're teaching a skill such as math. So you want to think about how you're using guided practice and independent practice, and even if that's appropriate for the objectives that you put forward. Then you should, at the conclusion, have some sort of ending for the session. In this section, you should also describe any anticipated problems or contingency plans. Like, for example, your technology may fail, as you've seen happen many times throughout the semester. Maybe a member of your group would be absent. How are you going to plan for that? What if you have time or pacing issues, which happens very frequently the first time you present a lesson? How are you going to handle that? And most importantly, how are you going to re-teach something that perhaps students misunderstand or have a difficult time understanding? In the fourth section, you'll provide your instructional materials. Anything that you're creating, if you're doing a PowerPoint, a Prezi, if you're doing handouts, if you're doing an assignment to request of the students before you teach your lesson, any of that sort of a thing, you want to make sure that you include with your lesson. You're going to list materials, equipment, and technology that you need to have prepared and tested. List and provide any pre-work assignment or reading required of the students that you're teaching to prior to your lesson. If you're going to assign homework, make sure you provide a description of that assignment, how it's going to be disseminated, and how it will be submitted and incorporated into the lesson. So, to repeat, these are the steps that I want you to go through. 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you are starting with the activity, you're doing it wrong. You should be starting with the content, then breaking the content down into objectives, then developing your instructional strategies and learning tasks. Once you have those together, you'll know if you need to assign homework, if you need any special equipment or technology, and then the instructional materials information can be filled in. I wish you all a great deal of success with this activity, but more so than success, as you know, I want you to have a good time and use a lot of creativity in working through this assignment.